Now guys, as silly as this may seem, I want to dedicate this video to the loving memory of the great Roger Corman. Alright guys, so come on in, welcome, it's your old pal CHH, have a seat, I want to talk to you guys today. We've got a movie review and a 4K review, and we're going back to the great days of New World Pictures, which is the company that, Roger Corman started, I believe sometime in the early 70s, if memory serves, and New World Pictures became a very, very successful outlet for Roger, and it was really a way for him to be able to stop directing movies. He wanted to be able to kind of take a reprieve from directing so much. I think he had directed somewhere in the vicinity of like 50 or 60 films, and New World ended up becoming really one of the bigger things that he did in the movie business. There's so many movies that we know and love that came from the New World banner, so to speak. One of the movies we're going to be talking about today is that movie, in fact. Now, the movie we're talking about is the movie Galaxy of Terror. Check that out, guys. Galaxy of Terror. Look how awesome that is. This is coming out of the early 80s, and Galaxy of Terror is the kind of movies I love more than anything. And yes, we're going to be talking about both of these releases today, so stay tuned. We're going to get into that. Galaxy of Terror is basically Roger Corman saying we've got to make Alien. We've got to make our version of Alien. Not Aliens, Alien, because this came out in the early 80s, and the godfather of making the lower budget versions of big movies was Roger Corman. I mean, without any question, that's what Roger did better than anybody. And Galaxy of Terror came out of that. And the thing I like about these movies is you can really look at these kinds of movies as the B horror drive-in titles. But I think there's a notion that B horror could mean just simply B as in bad. Now, what that really means in my estimation, B horror is stuff that's just made on micro or small budgets. The quality can vary from that. Now, of course, you could have B movies that truly are just bad. You can have micro budget films that probably wouldn't even equate to B movie titles, but you can also have B-movie stuff that was done from the independents and done with a decent budget, but compared to the big studios, it's not a lot of money. For instance, Galaxy of Terror is a great example of that. Galaxy of Terror actually cost Roger a couple million. Now, the reason he started doing movies like Galaxy of Terror, Forbidden Planet, where he was spending more money and making sets, albeit in his big lumberyard studio that he had, Jaws really changed the game. I mean, Jaws came out and really showed the Hollywood, hey, we can take ideas that would be considered B movies and bring them to, the forefront of nationwide audiences. And to Roger's credit, he knew that, he saw that coming, and it's basically, Jaws was basically a big budget Roger Corman movie. So at that point, Roger had to start stepping it up a little bit in terms of the value he was putting into his films, because he now had to compete with Hollywood in terms of making genre films, sci-fi stuff, horror stuff, and even action stuff. There was money being put into different types of movies as opposed to just the big, the Gone with the Winds and things like that. I mean, things were really changing. So Galaxy of Terror is born out of that whole spiel. I just wanted to kind of talk about that because you know how I guys roll. Like, we're going to talk about the picture quality and stuff, but when I'm obsessed with something, I love to talk about it. So Galaxy of Terror, like I said, it's basically an Alien ripoff, but there's more than meets the eye to Galaxy of Terror. You might be a little surprised if I told you that Galaxy of Terror is really a psychological horror movie. Now, obviously, we're mixing things together. We've got this team going to this planet, basically to go onto a ship that was crashed and see what kind of bodies were there, see which people were there, try to just see what happened, so to speak. Kind of sounds like Alien Romulus, but, that's, I'm sure Galaxy of Terror isn't the first movie to do a premise like that. But when they arrive at this planet, things start happening. You're not sure who to trust on the ship as things go in psychological movies. And one of the things about this movie that's interesting is, okay, you're on a planet that's known as the Galaxy of Terror by the title, right? Well, what is on the planet? Obviously, you see some amazing images on the cover of these releases. Well, what's your worst fear? That is kind of the way that this movie goes. What you can think of as the scariest thing to you could be what this thing is. Funnily enough, I'm saying thing because of the movie The Thing. But that's Galaxy of Terror. The thing I like about Galaxy of Terror is it still feels like that really cool drive-in type of horror movie, but there are some really impressive things done here. Like I said, this was all done on a huge soundstage that Roger Corman owned. Now, they did a great job in some aspects of making this seem like this huge cathedral ship that they enter into at parts. The designs of inside the ship are modest but practical and good at the same time. And what's really cool about this movie, I will say, is the cast. Now, in this movie, you're going to see Robert Englund pre-Nightmare on Elm Street. You're also going to see Sid Haig, as we know of Captain Spaulding. But the interesting thing about Sid Haig's character is he's basically a mute, with the exception of maybe one line or two that he was basically forced to say. Now, if you're wondering why is Sid Haig's character a mute, well, he read the script. Roger wanted him to do the movie, but he thought the dialogue wasn't good, or he didn't think it jived with what the character should have been. So he said, I'll do the movie, but I want to do it as a mute and emote myself physically, what I'm trying to say and do. And I agree with Sid. I think his character is fun in this. You know, with movies like Galaxy of Terror, I could see the Event Horizons and other movies getting some some inspiration from movies like this. So I'm a huge Roger Corman fan. I love these types of movies, and Galaxy of Terror is a really fun one. So I implore people above anything else to check the movie out. It's very, very entertaining. But let's get into the releases. Now, first, let's talk about this. This is the Blu-ray release for Galaxy of Terror. This was the Roger Corman Presents. Now, this is going to be another title where I was more than happy to upgrade because I wanted to talk about this, and it gave me a great excuse to talk about this. So, this Blu-ray does not say, this was during a time where it was really before Scream Factory was saying, oh, we're going to be restoring this from blank, meaning it could be an positive, a negative, etc., etc. It was just, Blu-ray was the special thing about this. At the time, this was early in the Scream Factory catalog. I'll say this about this Blu-ray. It doesn't look that great. It's passable, it's fine, but I have a feeling they probably used some 1-inch master tape or something. I have a feeling it's that, because if you watch it, the quality is not great. It's not unwatchable by any stretch, but it's not a great looking Blu-ray. But here's the thing about this Blu-ray. I want to show this. The thing I like about this Blu-ray is they give you a really cool booklet in this one. And they actually talk about some other titles that were from the Roger Corman Presents line. And it's a really interesting little booklet that goes over the making of the film, which I think is a really nice touch. So this is nice. This is not in the 4K release. And I think this is really, really charming. I like this a lot. So this Blu-ray release comes with a nice little booklet. And I put a lot of miles on this Blu-ray. Not a whole lot of complaints with it, but let's get into this. So there's mostly good news about this, but slightly bad. But I will say this. I don't like to jerk you guys around too much. This is a vast improvement in my opinion. Because clearly with this, they're working with something close to the original elements, but you hear me say close, so let me explain what that is. This is a restoration of the 35mm inner positive. That probably means that the negative was severely damaged and or destroyed, so maybe they couldn't use that. Now, the inner positive, from my understanding, is very, very, very close to the negative, so it's really kind of like a best-case scenario with this. But here's what I'll say about the picture quality on this on 4K. It's a lot better than the old Blu-ray. Like I said, I'm not going to shame the Blu-ray. As a matter of fact, I might give you a reason to get that release as opposed to this when we kind of talk about the final things about this. But I enjoyed this 4K quite a bit. I would give it a 7.8 out of 10. There are a lot of dark scenes in Galaxy of Terror, obviously, to kind of mask the limitations in terms of what they were trying to do on such a big grand scope, being on a different planet, being inside these huge, ships. So there's a lot of dark scenes with that, but there's a good level of clarity there. And of course, in the beginning, especially with the monsters, it's low lit and stuff like that. It's a grainy 4K, which I only bring that up because I don't know if that's a factor for some people. For me, it's a benefit because I typically enjoy that look. To me, it feels like like I said, to me, especially with titles like these kinds of B-movie kind of releases, it gives a feeling of authenticity, So it's not like a bunch of gnats on the screen doing this the whole time, but you can see the film grain for sure. Anything where the scene has got a lot of light in there, or just light in general, there's a really nice level of definition. This is not going to be 4K of the year by a country mile. I want to say that right now. But in terms of this compared to the Blu-ray, I found it to be a big improvement. Now, the thing about this that's interesting, though, is I watched the 4K restoration Blu-ray on this, and I felt like it didn't really even compare as great to the 4K that came with this. So I want to say that because some people may get this and be wanting to watch the Blu-ray version of this as opposed to the 4K, because maybe it's not a 4K. The Blu-ray didn't look bad, but I felt like it's like one of those things. There was another release I had called Ticks from Vinegar Syndrome, and the 4K of that looked great, but the Blu-ray was a couple notches below in terms of quality. A lot of times you watch them, you could put the Blu-ray in on an accident and think you're watching the 4K because the restoration is pretty even on both discs. But this one, I found the 4K to be just really the one that has the big improvement, much more than the Blu-ray did in this, which is just interesting. I thought I'd mention that because I like to put all of them in the player and just at least get a bird's eye view at each so I can have a reference point. 4K on this, I'm happy with it. I would have loved to have had the negative. I mean, it is what it is. Above that, the issue with this release, I say that's the issue, is in terms of special features, there's nothing new. But here's the thing that's kind of like, I'm not going to just necessarily say, well, okay, well, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, obviously, you got to look at the facts. Sid Haig has passed away, and Roger Corman's passed away. But what's on here, as well as what's on that release, is this amazing 6-part documentary where they not only talk about, with Roger Corman, with Robert Englund, with Sid Haig, with other cast members, the entirety of the making of this film, including the people that were involved on the production side, in terms of the music side, all of that. It's this insane documentary back when Scream Factory went out of their way to create incredible things. This one I do think had a few extra small things, like there were photo galleries and stuff on this one, which were on that one, I think it didn't have that, but it did have the thing where if you put the Blu-ray in a disk drive, you could read the script, where that was a thing that they used to do. So there's a few small, minor, not even worth really mentioning kind of things in there, but they are there. But let's look at the release physically. It's a great looking slipcover. I love that artwork. Obviously, you're going to get that on that Blu-ray as well. I do think you can reverse the art on this. Obviously, you have this, it's the same right there. Let's reverse the art. That way you guys can get a bird's eye view. Never mind. Never mind. You can reverse it on that Blu-ray, and I'll show you that, I guess. But here's your 2 discs. I believe the disc art, they actually kept it the same. They just have a Blu-ray and a 4K disc. The release itself, I would give it a... What did I give the picture quality? Like a 7.8? I'd stick with that in terms of the rating of the release. They include, obviously, that amazing documentary that's in here. But other than the picture quality and stuff like that, there's not a whole lot to bump it up. But on this release, I'll be honest with you, I can see a lot of you watching this that maybe have not gotten into these movies on a bigger scale yet, or just maybe haven't seen this movie. You might even just be like, well, if I can get this Blu-ray at a great price, maybe I'll stick with that. This is when they were having the Roger Corman's Called Classics line, where they called it that. You can actually reverse the art on this. Pretty decent little artwork. Have it say, The Mind Warp and Infinity of Terror. Obviously, you can't really beat that other artwork. So which one should you get? I mean, it's kind of tough. I can't even lie to you guys. I think if you haven't seen the movie, the first thing I would say is at least go watch 10 or 15 minutes of it on a streaming site that you could watch for free. Or just figure out a way to see a little bit of it. Make sure you enjoy the film, first of all. I think a lot of big horror fans, or just horror fans in general, will definitely enjoy this. If not for, the awesome popcorn, funness of the movie, but the cast is great. Like I said, Robert Englund, Sid Haig in here. But I think a lot of people that love cheesy horror movies will also get a kick out of this. So you're probably safe there. So let's get past that point. I think if picture quality is your biggest concern, I would go with this release big time. But if you want to just have the release because of that beautiful 6-part documentary where they go over every aspect of the film, and it's fairly feature length, I think it was at least 40 minutes, and own the film, and you're happy with just decent picture quality, and you prefer to have this as a Blu-ray release for cheap, I'm sure you can get this very, very cheap. There's nothing wrong with this, guys. I am not going to disparage this Blu-ray release. I'm not going to do that. Now, me personally, picture quality is important in aspects like this because this wasn't a great source material that they were using. So, I mean, I could definitely recommend this release for people to check out and pick up. But I really don't think that I really don't think that this is a time where I should say, screw that old Blu-ray. No, this is perfectly fine if you just want to own the film, and decent picture quality is fine. Nothing to brag or run home and talk about. But I do think the addition of the booklet is nice. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't still get this booklet if you got this release on Amazon. I don't. I think this probably should be in all of them. If it's not, I'm sorry. But if you can get this release for $10, if it doesn't come with the booklet, I guess you can't complain too much. But either one is really fine. I think you should weigh out the options of the things I talked about to make your own decision. But, I mean, in terms of picture quality, it's not going to be release of the year, 4K restoration of the year, in my opinion. Obviously, we're not even using the negative. But in terms of a jump, yeah, there's a nice jump in this. Take that with what you will. I'm not going to give a definitive answer. I want you, the audience member, to kind of pick what you want to do. But above all else, it would warm my heart if you guys checked out Galaxy of Terror. Classic Roger Corman, early 80s sci-fi horror stuff. I love it. So there you have it, guys. This is your old pal CHH saying, be a smart consumer. Decide what you want. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I'm going to give you the facts and my opinions on things and let you decide. This is your old pal CHH, guys. Let me know your thoughts on Galaxy of Terror down below. Shout out to Roger Corman once again, one of my idols, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.